In the heart of Amuko, a sun-warmed Igbo village tucked between dusty red roads and echoing hills, the bleating of goats filled the air like music. It was not a disturbing sound to the people. It was the sound of business, of wealth, of a young woman's pride. That woman was Neoma, the most successful goat seller the village had ever known. While other young women powdered their faces and chased men who rode motorcycles or wore shiny shoes from the city, Neoma tied two wrappers around her waist, rubbed red camwood on her cheeks, and marched through the market square with a stubborn grace that turned heads. Her strength came from more than just her arms, which could wrestle the strongest of goats. It came from her heart. She had a quiet, fearless kind of love, and it was all invested in one person, Ibube. Ibube was the opposite of her. He was calm, soft-spoken, and filled with dreams too large for the village. He believed in books, in the rising and setting of hope, in a life that stretched far beyond the rusted zinc roofs of Amuko. But his father had died when he was young, and his mother had struggled to feed him, let alone send him to school. That was where Neoma came in. They had been friends since childhood, playing with broken tires and hunting grasshoppers with old tins. But something had changed the day Neoma saw Ibube weeping under the mango tree, holding the rejection letter from yet another university he couldn't afford. Without asking questions, without waiting for him to beg, she reached into her savings, her goat money, and promised, "I will train you. You will go to that university. You will become what you dream of. I believe in you, Ibube." Ibube had shaken his head, his pride wounded. "Neoma, you're just a goat seller. You shouldn't carry my burden." But Neoma smiled with lips full of dust and fire. "I may be a goat seller, but I am not just anything. I love you, Ibube, and I will invest in you like you are my biggest market." The village laughed at her. Old women gossiped behind woven mats, saying, "When Ibube makes it, he will forget that goat-smelling girl." But Neoma paid no mind. Her goats were her soldiers, and her love was her strength. She sold and saved and sold again. She watched him board the bus in Succa, his eyes full of hope, and she returned home with dust on her feet and an emptiness in her chest. For 4 years, she kept her promise. Every semester, she sent money. Every break, he returned with more books and less time. But he never stopped loving her. He would hold her close and whisper, "I will marry you, Neoma. One day, I will build you a goat palace." But after he graduated, life grew harder. There were no jobs in the city. Ibube searched, begged, and slept in parks. Eventually, broke and broken, he returned home. Neoma welcomed him without a complaint. "I am sorry I failed," he had whispered. "You are not a failure," she replied. "Rest. Eat. Then we start again." That same day, she killed one of her fattest goats to celebrate his return, not out of pity, but love. The smell of spiced goat meat filled Amuko, and people gathered once more. They whispered. They judged. But Neoma did not care. Then one day, as the dry season bent the trees and the sky burned orange with harmattan heat, Chief Okina, the village's forgotten son, returned from the city. He was now a wealthy man, old and tired, and had come to retire in his father's land. He brought machines and builders. The village held its breath when he announced, "I am opening a factory, right here in Amuko." It was a cassava processing plant, and it was the beginning of hope. Ibube was among the first to apply, and by some miracle, or perhaps destiny, he was chosen. When he told Neoma, she danced, literally danced. She slaughtered another goat and called for another celebration. "You see," she told the village women who mocked her, "my man is not lazy. His time has come." They ate. They drank. They laughed. The winds of joy blew once more into her compound. But fate is like a goat. It never walks in a straight line. 1 week later, Chief Okina's daughter arrived from the city. Amaka. She came in a tinted Prado jeep, with polished fingernails, foreign perfumes, and a tongue sharper than okra. Her eyes were lined with makeup. Her walk was slow, like she owned the ground she stepped on. She had returned from the UK, and her father gave her a task: work in the factory. Learn how we built this business, and let Ibube guide you. And that was when the storm began. They worked together. Every day, every hour. Amaka with her perfume, Ibube with his simple village charm. And Neoma, unaware, continued selling her goats and dreaming of the wedding she and Ibube had always talked about. But love is never safe when pride and money step in. Amaka, used to getting everything she wanted, soon found herself watching Ibube in ways that made her chest tighten. He was different from the city boys. He didn't beg or flatter. He was honest, humble, strong. She asked him one day, "Do you have a girlfriend?" He smiled. "Yes, the best woman in the world. She trained me. She sells goats, but she gave me an empire." That answer should have stopped her, but it didn't. Amaka was not used to losing. The sun rose slowly over Umuko, casting a golden glaze across the red earth as morning roosters cried from every corner of the village. Smoke from early cooking fires curled into the air, and market women arranged their wares under the giant kola tree at the village square. But at the center of this sunrise, life in Neoma's compound buzzed like a hive. Her goats were restless, her buckets foamed with soapy water, and her laughter echoed into the distance. Ibube had started working at Chief Okina's new cassava factory, and she couldn't hide her joy. Her man was working, finally working. Her belief in him, her sacrifices, were bearing fruit. She walked through the market like a queen, no longer the goat seller people mocked, but the woman who lifted her man with her own hands. "Mama Nkechi," she called, smiling as she bought yam and pepper. "Prepare yourself. A wedding is coming soon." But the gods were watching, and sometimes they test love like fire tests gold. Inside Chief Okina's compound, a different story was unfolding. Amaka, Chief's only daughter, was not enjoying her stay in Umuko. The air was dry, the nights too quiet, and the roads dusty. She missed the whine of city traffic and the glint of Lagos nightlife. But one thing held her interest: Ibube. At first, he was just another village boy, but each passing day revealed something more. His discipline, his brilliance, his quiet confidence. And then, she learned about Neoma, his girlfriend, the goat seller. A goat seller? Amaka was stunned. She couldn't understand it. Ibube was handsome, well-spoken, and clearly ambitious. What was he doing with a village girl who stank of livestock and wore dust like a second skin? "Is she a witch?" Amaka once asked the factory cleaner. The cleaner laughed and said, "No, not love she day use hold am. That girl suffer tire for that boy's head." That answer didn't satisfy Amaka. She began testing him, dropping compliments, wearing more revealing clothes, calling him into her office for small discussions that lasted too long. But Ibube remained respectful. He smiled politely. He never gave her room to cross the line, and that rejection made her more determined. "Every man has a price," she muttered one evening, sitting in her air-conditioned room and sipping wine. "If not money, then fear." And so, Amaka decided to set a trap. It was a Friday evening when she called Ibube into her office. The factory had closed for the day, and most of the workers had gone home. She sat behind her desk, her blouse slightly undone, a bottle of red wine on the table, and soft high-life music playing in the background. "Sit down," she said softly, pouring him a drink. Ibube hesitated. "Ma, I don't drink alcohol while working." "You're not working. Sit down. Relax." He sat, awkwardly, and held the glass. "Do you know I admire you?" she said, leaning forward. "You're not like the others. You're different." Ibube cleared his throat. "Thank you, Ma, but I am not special. I just do my job. And love your goat girl, right?" she smirked. Ibube laughed. "Very much, Ma. She's my backbone." That laugh triggered something in Amaka, a wild jealousy, a hunger to prove that no one, not even a local goat seller, could rival her. She watched him drink slowly, sip by sip, as her plan unfolded. She had crushed sleeping pills into the wine. Enough to confuse him, not enough to kill. Within minutes, Ibube's eyes became heavy. His voice slowed. His head dropped. She moved closer, touched his face, whispered things he would never remember. The next morning, Ibube woke up shirtless on the couch in her office. Confused, dizzy, scared. Amaka stood by the window, arms crossed. She turned and said, "You don't remember?" He rubbed his eyes. I was drinking. Then, we slept together," she said flatly. Ibube's heart stopped. "No," he whispered. "Yes," she said. "And don't try to deny it. I'll tell my father everything. You want to lose this job? You want to go back to the streets?" He couldn't speak. The room spun. He remembered nothing. But what if she was right? He staggered out of the office and walked home like a ghost. Neoma welcomed him with a bowl of yam and oil, but he couldn't eat. He couldn't even look her in the eye. For days, he avoided her touch. His sleep was shallow. His joy disappeared. Neoma noticed. "What is wrong, Ibub?" she asked one night. "I'm just tired," he lied. "Work is stressful." She nodded, kissed his forehead, and said, "It's okay. Rest. I'm always here." But the worst was yet to come. 2 weeks later, Amaka visited him at home, bold and glowing. She came with a basket of fruit and a strange smile. "What do you want?" he asked, barely polite. She smiled and said, "I'm pregnant." Silence. Then laughter. "No, you're lying." "I don't lie. You slept with me. You can ask your conscience. I'm carrying your child. We have to get married, immediately." Fear gripped Ibub's chest like a hand. Marry Amaka? What about Neoma? What about everything she had done for him? What if Chief Okena found out? Would he lose his job? Would the man send thugs to beat him, arrest him, bury him? That night, Ibub didn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling, torn between truth and fear, between love and survival. The next morning, he told Neoma, "It's over." She stood still, like stone. "I don't understand," she said. "I've made a mistake. I have to marry someone else." "But why?" He didn't answer. He walked away. Neoma dropped to her knees. The goats watched silently as tears poured down her cheeks. And the village rejoiced. "Didn't we say it?" they screamed. "He has used her and dumped her. She trained him with goat money. A man-eater. She has been disgraced." Neoma stopped eating. She stopped smiling. Her goats grew lean. Her body weakened. She loved a man, and he had chosen a lie. But the gods were not done. The lie would soon burst like an overripe fruit. The sun no longer shone the same way in Amuko. It still rose from the east and set behind the brown hills that framed the village. But to Neoma, the days were darker. Her once vibrant laughter, the melody of the market, had turned into silence. Her compound, once lively with bleating goats and singing customers, became as quiet as a mourning house. She no longer wore her bright wrappers. Her hair, once woven every week, stayed undone under an old scarf. She barely ate. She barely spoke. And the people who had once mocked her now whispered in pity. "Love has finished that girl," old Mama Udoka said one morning. "She trained that boy with her whole life. He dumped her like a useless broom." "They said he got the chief's daughter pregnant," another woman added. "What could she have done? Fight the rich? That's how the world is. One goat can never fight a lion." But deep within her chest, Neoma still carried something, a strange flicker of hope. It was small, barely burning, but it refused to die. She remembered Ibub's eyes, his smile, the promises he whispered under the mango tree. Something felt wrong. She didn't know what. But her spirit kept saying, "He is not at peace." Meanwhile, Ibub was living in torment. He moved into one of the staff quarters near the factory, where Amaka visited often with her overly polished nails and her empty laughter. She would cook foreign dishes he didn't enjoy and spray perfume until his small room smelled like a duty-free shop in London. He couldn't breathe. Worse, he hadn't touched her once since the night of the so-called incident. She didn't press too hard. Not yet. After the wedding, she always said with a wicked smile. Chief Okena had announced the engagement himself during a brief staff meeting. "My daughter is carrying this man's child," he said with a loud laugh. "He is no longer your colleague. He is now family." The workers clapped awkwardly. Ibub bowed his head. Neoma had heard the announcement from the lips of a small boy who ran past her stall screaming. Ibubdan turned big man. He day married Chief Pekin. She had closed her stall that day and walked home with her shoulders heavy. That night, for the first time in weeks, she looked up at the stars and whispered, "God, if I was a fool, tell me. If he lied, let me move on. But if someone is lying to him, expose them." A few weeks later, the gods answered. And they answered through an unexpected source. Nurse Ifioma, the young woman who always followed Amaka like a shadow. She had been hired by Chief Okena to assist with his daughter's delicate condition. She was smart, quiet, and careful. But even the strongest calabash will crack if filled too much. She had kept the secret long enough, but her conscience had begun to bite. It started with bad dreams, visions of blood, of crying women, of goats with human eyes. Then came the fevers. Then came the voices at night. Speak before the child cries for a father he doesn't have. So, one night, when she couldn't hold it anymore, she visited Mama Chinyere, the herbalist near the riverbank. "I have a burden, Mama," she confessed, eyes red with guilt. "And if I don't drop it soon, I may run mad. Mama Chinyere sat quietly, turning her cowries. Speak. And Ifeoma spoke. Everything. From the fake pregnancy to the drugged wine. From the acting to the lies. She's not pregnant, she whispered. She never was. We used a fake test. I injected her arm with vitamins so her body would swell a little. The boy, Ibube, was tricked. Mama Chinyere's eyes narrowed. You must confess, she said, before your sins boil over. Ifeoma nodded. I will tell him. I'll go to the factory tomorrow. He must know the truth. That morning, Amuko buzzed again, but not for market talk. A secret had begun to crawl through the village like a rat in the dark. Nurse Ifeoma didn't go to the factory as planned. Instead, she went straight to Neoma's stall. Her hands shook. Her knees wobbled. Neoma, she said, I don't know you, but I know your pain. I helped cause it. I am sorry. Neoma looked up slowly, confused. Sorry for what? And Ifeoma told her everything. Every single thing. By the time she was done, Neoma was shaking, rage rising in her chest like a storm. Her breath was hot. Her vision blurred. Are you sure? She asked. Are you very sure? I swear on my own life, Ifeoma replied. And that was all Neoma needed. She didn't run to the factory. She didn't scream at the top of her lungs. She simply walked. With dignity. With power. With truth. When she reached the factory, the workers paused. Some dropped their tools. Even the security man at the gate stepped aside without a word. She found Ibube in his office, reading reports. He looked up, stunned. Neoma. She stared at him. Long and deep. Ibube, she said softly. The woman you're about to marry is not pregnant. You were drugged. Lied to. Used. I have proof. He stood, as if the floor beneath him cracked open. What are you saying? Nurse Ifeoma confessed. Ask her. Ask yourself. Why can't you remember that night? Why did she push the wedding so fast? Why can't she prove the pregnancy? He dropped his files. Rushed outside. Found Ifeoma, shaking in a corner near the back gate. She repeated everything to him, this time with tears. That night, Ibube didn't sleep. The next day, chaos erupted in Chief Okena's compound. The truth had reached him through whispers, his daughter's lie, the fake pregnancy, the shame. Chief Okena's face, once proud and full of laughter, turned gray with embarrassment. He summoned Amaka and shouted until she broke into tears. You will go back to where you came from, he roared. You want to bring disgrace on my head. You will leave this village before sunset. And so she did, packed her designer bags, entered her Prado, and left. Ibube, on the other hand, went straight to Neoma's compound. She stood there, feeding one of her goats. He knelt in the dust. I'm sorry, he said. I let fear control me. I abandoned you for a lie. I believed a wound instead of trusting the hand that healed me. Tears rolled down Neoma's cheeks. I waited, she said. Even when I was mocked. Even when I stopped believing in myself, I still believed in you. I love you, he said. If you forgive me, I will never let go again. And she forgave him. That evening, Chief Okena, still ashamed of his daughter's actions, called Ibube to his house. I wronged you, he said. To show I am sorry, I am promoting you. From today, you are the manager of this factory. Do well, and love that girl with your full chest. Ibube bowed in gratitude. And so, the goat seller and the dreamer, battered but still standing, began their new chapter. Together. The rains came early that year in Amuko. The clouds had begun to gather like ancestral spirits with heavy hearts, and by the second week of May, thunder cracked over the village like a drunken masquerade with a talking drum. The villagers welcomed the rain with open arms, their laughter echoing as children danced barefoot in the red mud. But in one particular compound, joy was not brought by water from the skies. It came from something deeper. It came from forgiveness, from truth, from love rekindled. The compound belonged to Neoma, the once broken, now restored goat seller. And by her side stood Ibube, the man who had almost lost everything. Weeks had passed since the scandal scattered like dry maize in the wind. Amaka was gone, sent back to the UK with disgrace hanging around her neck like a heavy wrapper. Chief Okena, true to his word, had promoted Ibube to factory manager and kept his distance, more humbled than he'd ever been in his life. The village, of course, had erupted in reactions. Some people pretended they had always supported Neoma. She be correct girl. Na Ibube fall magoo, no be she. I no say dat rich girl lie. E day show for her face. God day, Neoma win. Goat seller Don marry manager. But Neoma didn't care about the gossip anymore. She had survived ridicule, betrayal, and heartbreak. She had walked through fire, barefoot, and came out with her head high. She no longer needed their validation. Her goats bleated stronger than ever, and her heart, once bruised, now beat with a new rhythm. Preparations for the wedding began quietly, then spread like ripe palm wine in the mouths of the villagers. Ibub wanted a big wedding, but Neoma wanted something real. Let it be in the village square, she said, eyes glowing. Let people see how God does his own miracles. From goat stall to wedding stool. He smiled, touched her chin gently, and said, anything you want, Neoma. You've given me everything I am. And so it was fixed. The wedding would take place under the old mango tree at the center of Amuko, the very tree where Ibub and Neoma once sat as teenagers, dreaming of a life neither could afford at the time. Now, it would witness their union. The day of the wedding arrived with a sweetness the village had never tasted before. The sky was clear, the sun warm but kind. Women tied their finest wrappers and painted their eyes with blue powder. Children carried flowers made of folded okpa leaves. The village drummer tuned his udu while the town crier blew his horn and announced, gather, oh, true love Donwin. Wedding day happened for Mango Tree. Neoma wore a beautiful wine-colored George wrapper, her head tied with a golden scarf. Her skin glowed like the aftertaste of fresh palm wine. She refused to wear makeup. Let him marry me the way I looked when I was just the goat seller, she said. Ibub, in a clean white senator with coral beads around his neck, waited under the mango tree, his eyes scanning the crowd nervously. And when Neoma walked in, holding a white goat by the leash as her wedding bouquet, the crowd erupted in thunderous applause. Laughter, cheers. Even the goats bleated in celebration. The ceremony was brief but powerful. The elders of the land prayed over them. The pastor from the nearby Anglican church blessed their union. And the village women, led by Mama Yudoka, sang songs of redemption and glory. Musical notes. A goat seller trained a husband. Enemies thought she would suffer, but now she wears a crown of joy. Amuko will never forget this love. Musical notes. Tears flowed freely, not just from Neoma, but from Ibub too. He held her hands and whispered, I am sorry again. I will spend the rest of my life proving that I deserve you. You already have, she replied. You came back. The celebration that followed lasted till the moon climbed high into the sky. 7 goats were killed. Pots of jollof rice covered the ground. Kegs of fresh palm wine sat in every corner. The factory workers danced barefoot. Chief Okena, in his agbada, gave them 2 fat cows and a plot of land as wedding gifts. Even the village drunk, Papa Ease, sang praise songs while waving a spoon like a microphone. But perhaps the most moving moment was when Ibub's old mother, frail but beaming, stood and held her new daughter-in-law's hands. My son was lost, but you didn't give up, she said, voice shaking. Your goats may have smelled, but your love was sweet. May your womb carry twins. May your barn never dry. May no woman ever take what you have again. The crowd shouted amen, loud enough to wake the ancestors. In the months that followed, Amuko changed. The factory grew bigger. Ibub expanded it, and even began teaching village boys how to read and write after work. Neoma, though now married to a manager, refused to leave her goats. They're my first children, she said with a laugh. They suffered with me. I won't abandon them now. Instead, she opened a goat training school, teaching young girls how to raise and sell livestock. Her slogan was, no shame in hustle, nah where money day, you go enter. People began to come from other villages to see the goat woman who married a factory boss. Neoma and Ibub became living proof that true love can begin in the dust, survive betrayal, and rise into glory, if it is fed with sacrifice and watered with truth. One night, under that same mango tree, now decorated with fairy lights, the couple sat together watching the stars. Do you regret anything? She asked him gently. He took a deep breath. I regret the pain I caused you, but not the journey, because it taught me that not every rich girl wears diamonds, and not every poor girl lacks gold. You, Neoma, are the gold. She smiled, leaned on his shoulder, and whispered, and you, Ibub, are the dream I fought goats for. And they laughed, and kissed, as the wind blew through the mango leaves above them. It was as though even the trees had been waiting to witness a love so deep, so stubborn, so real.